Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to the new year. We haven't talked in a few weeks, so welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Of course, if you're returning, we're glad that you're back. So a couple logistical things that we'll go over real quick before we actually get into the presentation today. So if I can have, there we go. Okay, so as always, this information is for you. So we try as hard as we can to bring fresh ideas and better understanding and practical guidance to everything that we can as it relates to performance analytics and reporting. And sometimes we slide in some other things as well. So hopefully you'll get everything that you can out of this. This is being recorded, and it'll actually be out in the community later on today. Of course, it'll be out on our YouTube channels as well. But if recording is an issue for your organization, you may want to go ahead and drop now. But again, it will be out there for you to use whenever you need it. We definitely do have Q&A. I ask that you use the Q&A box or area to ask your questions rather than the chat. There are other colleagues that are on the call that will be answering some of your questions as we're going. If they can, they'll do that via type. If it is a question that is relevant to where we're at, then of course we can stop as well and answer those questions. So, but do feel free to ask questions. And then once we're done with the content that we're presenting today, if time permits, and we can open up the floor to other questions related to anything, we'll try to get to as many of those as we can as well. So my name is Thomas Davis, and I am the host and presenter today. And like I said, I do have some other colleagues that are on as well. You'll probably hear them throughout the hour as well. So today we'll go ahead and get into what we have. So we want to try to get in depth with roles. Today's content doesn't really have demos per se. We're really just talking about all of the different roles that are out there as it relates to reporting, PA, and some other things. For example, now experience, user experience, just a plethora of different roles that are out there that maybe you're aware of, maybe you're not aware of, and maybe we'll be able to bring to light some things and different ways that you can use roles that maybe that you haven't thought about. So with that, we'll go ahead and get into it. So the first thing that we want to talk about today is reporting roles. And there's a couple different types, I guess, categories, I guess you would say, of roles. The first one we're going to talk about is roles that allow some sort of administering of reports inside the report designer. And then we'll get into the ability to actually do some sharing of some reports. So one thing to understand is, in order for any user to actually be able to see the report section in the filter navigator, you want to make sure that they have the report user role. That gives them the ability to view and run, potentially create new ones, or anything that's under that is relevant to that particular role inside of your instance. So you want to make sure that they have that. And then also users with that same report user role will have the ability when they're viewing a report to actually insert and stay if they choose to. They could add that particular report if it's been shared to them, or if they've created it, they could add it to a dashboard. And of course, it also gives them the ability to export to PDF. So, even prior to, getting into the nuts and bolts of roles, that the report user is one that you definitely want to make sure that your users have. Just to do some of the very basic things of even just getting to the report builder itself, being able to look at it, and then of course some of the actions when inside of the report builder. So with that, some of the other things we have, so users with no reporting role can actually view reports that are shared with them. So even if they don't have any role and someone has shared a report with them, and then of course given them the link to that, they can actually view that report. And next, and we just talked about this a few minutes ago, the report user role, this gives a user the ability to actually create reports. And then also they can view reports that, of course, that have been shared with them. They themselves cannot share, edit, or delete reports that have been shared with them, but they could do that to their own reports that they created. So again, if someone shared a report with them, they can view it. They just can't, share it or edit, or definitely they cannot delete the reports that have been shared with them. So, and next, the report publisher. So this is, it goes directly to what it is. So this gives the ability for someone to publish a report that they can manage. So, and also when you publish a report, it actually creates a public link to that report that, of course, you could share to people within your organization, and it would give them the ability to get directly to that. And users with this role must also have another role that grants them permission to actually create and edit and share reports. So, even though you have the report publisher role, you definitely want to make sure that if any creation needs to happen, or editing, or even just sharing those reports, they need to make sure that they have the role that's going to give them the ability to do that. I'm looking at the question that came in. Is there a way to share reports as read-only with other users in groups? And Adam and Dan and Tara, I don't know if you want to answer any of these via type or whatnot, but if you have the ability and you can definitely go into that. So going to this particular question here, is there a way to share reports as read-only with other users in groups? So you can, depending on whether or not the user has a role that allows them to do any sort of editing or viewing or anything like that, just like I said, going back to the very first one that we're looking at here, the no role. So if you were inside of the report designer, and you shared it, you could absolutely share the report to a group, and then also individual users. So depending on the roles that the users inside of that group have, you could definitely do as read only, and basically the way that you do that is just by not giving them any roles that allows them to do any sort of editing or anything to a report. So just simply having users in a group that have no reporting roles whatsoever, but you shared that report to them, gives them the ability to see it, which in return would be a read only. They would only be able to see that. And of course you could do that at the user level as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, let me do the answer live. And then example, other users with report users. So basically it comes down to how you actually set up the group, right? So if you put users into a group, and generally the best rule of thumb is apply roles to groups and then add users to the groups rather than applying roles directly to users. That is generally the best rule of thumb. But if you have a group that you've created that you've given the report user role to, then users within that group would get that role as well in order to do whatever they needed to do. So it's really what you do at the group level. So whatever role that you assign to the group, the users that are within it would get those roles as well. Okay. All right.
And there's a quick question. There's a question in here about what role is required to insert and stay a report. And that, just to answer for everybody, to insert and stay in a report, to copy a report, you have to be able to create a report. So minimally, you need report user.
Correct. Yeah, and that actually goes back to this previous screen here where we talked about the report user role has the ability to access the insert and stay, and of course add a dashboard and export to PDF. So the report user at a bare minimum. Thanks, Adam. So next we have report admin. So basically a report admin can manage, share, publish, and schedule all reports. They can access the reports administration section that's in the filter navigator and manage all report related objects. And the report admin role inherits all the other roles. So any other report roles that you may happen to have, if someone gets the report admin role, then they're obviously going to inherit all of the ones that are underneath that. And the easiest way to look at a report admin is it just gives them the ability to do basically anything within the reports section in the filter navigator that shows to them when they're actually viewing that. So report admin would definitely be someone that is in a position to manage all of the reports, maybe the report creation, making sure that you monitor that so it doesn't get out of control. You wouldn't want to give report admin to just anyone. That there comes a lot of responsibility with that role. So make sure that you give that out as needed. Report group. So report group can manage and share reports that are shared with them. So again, if you have a group that you want to give the report group role to, so any users that are within that group, obviously, get inherent all of those roles that come with the report group. And then report global can manage reports that are shared with everyone. So, no matter who, a report is shared with, the report global can see those and manage those if they need to. Again, that comes down with, I think that comes into play with a lot of governance to make sure that you're managing everything that's shared from a report basis, and the report global actually gives the ability to do that. So next we have some roles that actually give the ability to share reports, and these are roles that we have just seen, but we'll talk about the actual ability that they have as it relates to sharing. So report admin, because they can basically do anything, they can share a report that is shared with any user, any group, or everyone. This role can share with any user, any group, everyone. I mean, they can basically take a report that's not necessarily created by them and actually share that with someone as well. But whoever it's shared to, if it's something that's shared to them, they have the ability to share it with anyone else. Again, the report global, so they can share a report that is shared with everyone. This role can cannot share a report that is shared with a user or a group. So when you go to share and you share to a group, the report global would not be able to actually share that report out. It has to be reports that are shared with individuals. And then the report group can share a report that is shared with a user or a report that's shared with a group that the user belongs to, and basically share with any user in a group. They cannot share a report that is shared with everyone or the group that a user does not belong to. So if there's a report that is being shared to a group and a user's not part of that group, then obviously they can't share it to those particular users. So, and a note here, so users that do not have the report admin, report global, report group roles do not see the share menu in the report builder. So when you're inside of the report builder and you have the share button that's at the top right, if you don't have any one of these roles, then you wouldn't be able to actually see that and wouldn't have the ability to share a report anyway. Now, one thing that we'll see later on in the presentation is you could obviously have be shared to a role that inherits other roles. So you get to be shared to a role that inherits any one of these roles, then you would actually be able to see that share button that's in the report builder. It doesn't have to specifically be the role sitting in the roles for that particular user. If it's a role that inherits other roles, which might be one of these, then you can see it then as well. So one of the things that you can do is you can actually restrict the ability to create reports with an ACL rule. And this is something that, if there's users that you have that you actually don't want to, be able to create a report at all, or if you, this goes back to ACLs in general, if you have a table that you don't want users to be able to report on, you can of course put ACLs on that. And then you can as well put ACLs on an actual field within a particular table as well. So maybe they can report on the field, but you don't necessarily, on the table, but you don't necessarily want them to report on all of the particular data that's within that particular table. So you can get, as granular as putting it at the field level as well. So you obviously have to have the security admin role in order to even apply ACLs. So that is a role that you would need to have to do that. So one of the ones that we could talk about here is the report on. So if a user doesn't have the report on access for table, when they go to actually build out a report and they're in the table drop down searching for the table that they want to report on, if they don't have the report on for that particular table, then they wouldn't actually be able to see that particular table and they look for it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a report on all tables that are out there. There, if someone has put the report on access on that table and the user that's trying to report doesn't have it, then they wouldn't see it. But there could very well be tables out there that doesn't have it actually applied to it, so they would be able to see those as well. So data sources, the same thing. So, if you have a data source that's based on tables that have the report on ACL, you wouldn't be able to find that data source in the dropdown in the report designer as well if you did not have that particular role. So to restrict one or more users from seeing a data source in a report source list, then you just create a new read ACL on the sys report source table that excludes those users. So you could do it directly on the report source table. And if users don't have the report on, then they wouldn't be able to see those data sources as well. So a really good thing that gives you the ability to put some security around what exactly that users are allowed to report on from a table, and of course a field perspective as well. So I'm sorry.
Can I add in? So on the report on too, if you go back this slide.
Sure.
So I believe the behavior is if there is not a report on ACL defined, then as long as you can see the table, you can report on it. So you need to create it for it to take effect.
Correct.
But the thing about this too, we're talking about from security, but I also look at this one as a user experience object. There's lots and lots of tables that people have access to. And if there's just no reason why somebody would need to report on some table, I want to go add a report on, I'm going to block it. And maybe I'll give them access if they ask for it, but just a lot of my users don't need to report on a lot of the tables that are there. There's just no need for it. And it just confuses them. They have 300 tables to create a report on when really they only need 50, right? Maybe it's really only 20 that they need. So you might want to look at some of these ACLs. You want to make sure you have a group so that if somebody needs access, you can grant it to them. But can I give them a better user experience and help them find what they're looking for more readily? The report on can help you control how many things are showing up for reports to create on, right? So security may not be your first reason why you need this, but just user experience, still very useful ACL to look at.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point. It really does give you the ability to put some good governance around things and not having a drop down, like you said, with 300 different potential tables and being able to drill that down for users. I think it's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. So next we have the report view. So there's two kinds of report view access control lists. So again, we talked about this a little bit ago. So the ability to report, to view a table and then also potentially view a field within a table. So report view table and column ACLs grant access to report content based on a table or column specified in the ACL only to users who meet that criteria. When a field in a table or the table itself has a report view ACL and the user's viewing the report does not have it, then this is where they would get that security message that basically says access to this content denied based on report view field ACLs. You may have seen this, or a user may have could potentially have brought this up to you. So if they get that, that basically means that they don't have the report view role, and there is one that's been applied to that. So they can't see that. And of course, then you have to decide whether or not they should be allowed to. And I'm sure conversation we'll have there. So, even viewing the information, the table's out there and we're okay with them seeing the table, but there's a couple columns of data. And this really comes into play when you think about an example would be like maybe if you were reporting on an HR table. So maybe users with the report user role, they can access the report grouped on the salary field and they see that, but we don't want them to actually see the salary field. So maybe there's only certain people that can report on that. That would not obviously be opened for everyone. So when you think about HR, there's very personal restrictive information that's in a table like that. So maybe, but you don't want to necessarily lock down the table as a whole. but you just want to lock down a couple fields of that. Or, of course, you could lock down the table as a whole and they wouldn't see that. And that goes back to what Adam was saying before. So the report view gives you the ability to decide at what level that you want to actually do that. So,
and I want to stress
sure.
on this one. Like this is important. So list reports, this doesn't matter, right? List reports, the data ACL, the read ACL takes effect of whether you can see the data or not. The reason this is important at the field level is because I don't want somebody to be able to do an aggregate and bypass it. Right. So this is with the report on or the report view is how you're able to restrict blocking those aggregates from happening and letting people bypass, do a multi-level pivot and see more information than they should. So this is something that was introduced a few years ago now. It was an old problem we had where the aggregates would bypass ACLs, and they do by default, but you can tune them in so that certain fields cannot be reported on or not be viewed on without the proper roles. So very important for those aggregate reports.
Thanks, Adam. And there a question just came in, and you're I think you're always the best person to speak to anything when it comes to performance. So the user asks, any performance impacts ACLs? Any concerns with that?
I'm always concerned about performance. We're always concerned about performance. The more ACLs you have, the more rules that have to get processed. There's some great caching involved, so it's generally not an issue. That this is an aside, but on the ACL front, scripted ACLs can kill your performance. You don't want to have scripted ACLs. And if it's a small script, it's a small hit, but it's actually really similar to the conversations we have about performance analytics scripts. If you have an ACL that has a query in it, well, now for every row, it's got to, well, depending on the ACL, some ACLs are row level, some are table level. It has to analyze what's going on. The report view, report on, those are generally table level ACLs. So it's going to be very light. Only when I go to, one check, when I go to see what's in the table is not a big deal. But if I'm bringing up the report designer and my report view, report on, have lots of scripted ACLs, and those scripted ACLs have queries in them, well, yeah, it can notice that in the performance wise. If it's simply role based, that's amazingly optimized, and I'm not going to be worried about role based ACLs. But be cognizant of it. The only place I've seen people really run into problems is they use scripted ACLs and complex logic with scripted ACLs, and if those have queries, it can be painful. So we want to stay away from those and stay role-based as much as we can, which should be achievable for report on and report view, because it's, can you see the column or not? Can you see the table or not? That only runs once. But if you are writing ACLs at the row level where it runs on every row, then performance becomes much bigger concern for me than it does at a report view.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. Okay, so next.
Hey, Thomas.
Real quick. Go ahead, Tara. Hey, Tara.
Can you clarify something for me? Because I
Sure.
answered Maggie's question and there's a bit of confusion there. Did you say that a report user is able to create reports, but they can't share them?
So let me go back here.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I thought they could share it with individuals.
Because that can create reports, can view reports that have been shared
So
with them, cannot share editors. So
that's
report user can create a report, but can't
that's what's
share.
been shared with them.
Yeah.
So there's the difference, right? So if a report user creates a report, they can share their own report. They just can't share a report that's been shared with them. They can't share, edit, or delete reports that have been shared with them.
Oh, okay. Maggie,
Right. So there's a difference. They can
you?
view something that's been shared with them, but they couldn't turn around and share that with somebody else.
Which makes sense. I just got
Right.
confused for a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you create your own report, you have ultimate power over your own report and can share it with whoever you need to see that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure. Thanks.
So Maggie's
okay.
saying that doesn't work in her environment.
Yeah, and I think that's not the default. Pretty sure that By default, you should be able to share it with a user. I know there are default settings on, like, being able to share it globally. You can't by default, just any user cannot share globally, but you should be able to share it with another user.
Right. So that had to have been tweaked, possibly.
That's what
so
I'm
that,
thinking.
That it was turned off, maybe for performance issues or whatever. So Maggie, you may want to check with your sysadmin
Yep.
team and
Yep.
see there's reason
Yeah.
because out of box it should just be, if you own the report, you can share the report. Simple.
Thanks, Maggie. Good question.
Yeah, and what I'll do prior to putting this out in the community later on after we're done here is I'll actually test that. I'll just create a user in my instance and create a report and make sure that I see the share. But I'm pretty sure that's the default manner. But it could of course, like you said, been something that was done inside of the environment to make sure that a lot of sharing isn't happening, right?
I mean, yeah, there could be many reasons, and a lot of it, comes from confusion of what does that actually mean? Am I giving our end users too much power? Let's just shut it off. So, I mean, it could be just a misunderstanding of what it actually allows.
Right. Thanks, Tara. Okay, so you can actually prevent, the ability to see the save button in a report designer. So, you can create a write ACL directly on the sysreport table, and that controls who has access, write access for reports. So if the ability for someone to not be able to save a report was ever something that you wanted them to be able to do, obviously they could run it, but they couldn't save it. You could create a write ACL directly on the sysreport table to prevent users from being able to do that. And I'm guessing that, again, would go back. Why would somebody do that? There could be a plethora of reasons, but maybe there's a governance issue. We will give you the report designer so you can run, but we just don't want to have a lot of different reports that are out there that just goes on forever. But so I'm guessing that's probably why this ability was created at some point. So again, if you want users to be able to run a report but not necessarily save it, you can put a write ACL directly on the sysreport table. So something that's new that actually was released this past October, which is a really great tool, and it gives you the ability to actually see ACLs that are on tables that have been someone has tried to report on. So the ACL assessment of reports basically gives the ability, and it has a dashboard where you're actually able to run a scan on the system where you can look for any reports that are created that may be impacted by an ACL, any sort of ACL constraint. So, or the ability to look for tables that have ACLs on them that directly could prevent someone from reporting on them. So, prior to this, I think it was had no idea if there's ACL on that. Let me go and check. Whereas now you actually have the ability where you can run the scan. And this is something that you can get in the store, and it is backwards compatible back to Paris. So it will, just because it was released this past October doesn't mean that it won't run on your instance. So if you're as far back as Paris, then you could still use this. So it's a really great tool that gives the ability to look for, some information. And here it has a dashboard. And also it adds in under reporting, it adds in some other options, which is basically the ACL assessment of reports. And you have those options there. And this is what the dashboard looks like. So kind of hard to see, but you can see that the scan was ran and there's 269 reports that were impacted by ACLs. And you can see directly, you can actually see those particular reports. So you could scroll down and then it would actually show you what the ACL is on or whatnot. So this is a really great tool to sort of see everything that's out there that is impacted by an ACL that someone could potentially report on, or something that someone has reported on. And Adam, I know this is something that's near and dear to you, so I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add in. Everybody has the issues where I shared a dashboard, I didn't share the report. This helps with that. And I would say we'll continue to advertise these here, but we're looking to add more apps to the store to help you. We don't want to have to wait until getting into a family release and until you upgrade. So make sure you're looking at the store, and whether it comes from ServiceNow or it comes from a partner that's out there, lots of great things to help you that are getting iterated on. This came out in October. I believe there was a new release for it in November with some enhancements. So we are looking to be more responsive to you, give you better tools to manage what you want. It can be installed. It can be uninstalled when we don't need it anymore. This one's free. So lots of great stuff out there. Make sure you're looking at the store at least occasionally and what's in there. We'll continue to talk about when these things come out, but great stuff. And again, although it's new, it will, as long as you're on Paris, you can install this and use this and take advantage of it. So make sure you're keeping your ears open for those things. Most of them, this one came in after Rome, so that's why we're specifically talking about it. But make sure you're looking at the release previews, the release notes. When we talk about what's new in San Diego, we'll mention these things as well. And not all of them are going to show up as plugins, right? We are trying to leverage the store more so that you can get help, right? You can get new applications sooner, and you don't have to upgrade your entire platform. We know that that's an issue. So I thought this was great stuff to have out there. And this can get complex. This has got some great documentation in it and lots of options so that you can balance how deep you want to go, how much analysis you want to have versus how fast. So I'm very proud of this. I'm really happy to see this, and I think it's going to make your lives better. And I think it's one of more to come. All right. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Thomas.
The opportunity.
Thank you, Adam. I'm sorry. Appreciate it. Yeah, and thank Thomas. Yeah. All right, so now let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about performance analytics and roles that come with it. So the right off the bat, so the admin role, the system administrator role, users with the admin role can perform all PA admin functions, edit properties, create database use, CRUD, any dashboard, assign ownership or anything. So we know that the admin role can do those particular things. So no role. So if a user has no PA role, they can still view performance analytics visuals on the service portal, and they can view dashboards that have been shared with the user. Now, there may be, if you have reports, a caveat to that. So if you have reports that are in a dashboard that user does not have access to, they would obviously get the security constraints. But the dashboard as a whole, they could just simply view that if they had no role, if you've shared that to them. So any role can create a dashboard, restrict access by role to a dashboard they created, and share dashboards that they own. So if they have the ability to create the dashboard, they can basically manage everything that has to do with that particular dashboard because they own it. So PA Viewer gives the ability to view the Analytics Hub. PA Viewer can create thresholds and targets for indicators. They can read, update, delete thresholds and targets they have created themselves. And they can view text analytics widgets on dashboards. So quite a bit of ability there held in the PA Viewer. And it is also contained by all roles except the PA contributor. So this PA Viewer, if someone got the PA admin, then they would obviously get the PA Viewer and all the things that come with that. So except for the PA contributor. So next, PA admin. So they can read performance analytics properties. They can access the admin console. They can launch the dependency assessment. And they contain PA admin contains quite a few PA power users, the SMPA diagnostics, and the data collector roles. Those are contained within the PA admin itself. The PA admin can basically, do anything that's related to PA ultimately, with maybe some small caveats. PA PA analyst, so CRUD text analytics. So CRUD, if anybody's not familiar with that, just means create, read, update, and delete, just a small acronym for it. But they can do text analytics keywords, phrases, and stop words, and read indicator sources. So exactly what you would want a analyst to be able to do, which is basically look at the data. They have the ability to do that with those particular permissions. So a contributor, and this is for indicators which the user is designated as a contributor. They can read and update scores and score sheets and view the analytics hub. So if you have a user that you need to be able to, you need to have someone that can actually add data to a score sheet, actually input the information directly into it that then is reflected onto in an indicator on a dashboard. Then you could give PA contributor to someone and they actually have the ability to do that. And of course, they can still see the analytics hub, and this user can also read dashboards that have been shared with them. So make sure to look at these questions here real quick. Not necessarily related here. Okay, I'll move on. So some other ones that we have here. So PA power users, so they can do quite a bit. So they can CRUD indicators and breakdowns and widgets. They can add performance analytic widgets to dashboards. They can CRUD text index configurations for text analytics. They can create bucket groups, manage them, whatnot, indicator groups, and it's contained by the PA admin role. So the PA power user role contains the PA viewer, contributor, target admin, PA analyst, and PA thresholds. So even though we're listing out all of these different ones, this is a good example of giving one that is higher up in the chain there would automatically give some of the other ones. So make sure that you're aware of that whenever you decide to give a user a role. All the other roles that sort of come with that, all the roles they inherit. So just be aware of that. So big one, PA data collector. So they can schedule and run data collection jobs, indicator breakdown sources. They can read some system properties, system units. They can create those scripts and automated notifications and bucket groups. And this is contained by the PA admin. You don't have to give the PA admin someone to get PA data collector, but it's just contained in it. KPI signal admin enables users to dismiss or a signal or reset the baseline of KPI signals. This is contained by admin. So if someone was an admin, they would have that as well. Target and threshold admins are very close. You can do things with targets and you can do things with thresholds. And both of those are contained by the PA power user and the PA admin as well. So again, a lot of information here on the screen, but again, based on what you want the user to be able to do would determine which particular role or roles that you want to give them. So again, the big thing to take away from this, well, there's a lot of things, but the thing I want to highlight is understand if a role inherits other roles when you go to assign them. So unless your organization has changed that, then just be aware that when you give one thing, it could give something else as well. And I have a diagram that's actually going to show you that, which may make it a little bit easier for you to understand. So those are all the different PA roles that are out there and all the abilities that they have. So there are some spotlight roles. Spotlight, should be used a whole lot more, but there are definitely roles there, and here you can see those. So, just PA spotlight, just the ability to create spotlight groups and criteria. It contains the PA viewer role because, generally spotlight, that's dashboard. So once you'd be able to give you the ability to see that. PA spotlight, copy breakdown, spotlight viewer, a lot of different ones here. If you're using Spotlight and you need to change up the ability of what somebody can do or enhance what they can do, then, be aware of the different Spotlight roles that are out there. So this kind of goes back to what I was talking about. So here's kind of a diagram of a hierarchy that can kind of help you. And this is in the docs, and this link here will take you directly to it. So, maybe you favorite this so you can always have an understanding of what gets inherited from everything else. So here we can see PA admin basically gets everything outside of the spotlight ones that are below it, but it's going to get the power user, the data collector, and it trickles down, right? So, PA threshold admin is going to get the PA viewer. PA power user is going to get analyst, target admin, threshold admin, contributor. So again, a nice little hierarchy diagram that kind of gives you a real quick of what you're expected to get based on a role that you give to someone, and really a role that you give to a group that the user is a part of. Big thing to remember. They're always try to give roles to groups, not directly to users. So this is another great diagram. I know it's kind of small here, but this is a really great diagram that helps you understand exactly, what role maybe someone needs based on an action that they need to do. So for an example, right? So if you need someone to manage bucket groups, here we can see, okay, so to create or CRUD anything in a bucket group, I know that I need to be able to they need to have PA data collector or PA power user. So again, a lot of different scenario actions here that can help you determine which exact role that a user needs to have. May not cover all of them. There may be some other scenarios, but again, this is something that's out there in the docs that I would favorite, become, familiar with if you're someone that is responsible for giving roles to users based on what actions that they need to take inside performance analytics. This is a really good one that you can kind of look for. So I know that I need them to be able to manage thresholds on indicators. Well, I need PA threshold administrator. That's kind of given, but again, there's a couple different ones that you can see here, and this link will take you directly to that. So some other useful roles that are of things that are used inside of whether it be reporting or PA is these three here. So metric admin. So if someone needs to be able to create a metric definition, they need to have the metric admin role. You don't have to have the metric admin role to report on metrics, but you have to have that role in order to create a definition that'll be used when someone's trying to look at metrics. Function field admin. So, the new function field ability inside the report designer. So if you want to configure a function field for reporting, you need to be able to, that user needs to be able to have that function field admin role. And again, probably you've given it to a group that you just dropped that user into. And then content admin. So if there's a user that you have that needs to be able to create some sort of content type, you want to make sure that they have the content admin role in order to do that. And these docs here, go directly to those particular, those links go directly to the docs page where it can talk a little bit more about that information. And of course, it'll be inside the Prezo. So a couple other ones. Well, let me back up. So Adam, Dan, Tara, did you want to talk any more about PA or any of these other things that I talked about? Yeah. Anything that you were thinking about before I go further?
I wanted to talk really quick about Pierre's question, the PA analyst, PA contributor roles, and what they were specifically designed for, right? Okay. Because they are a little bit of a niche situation, right? So I think, Pierre, your example of PA analyst is geared towards text analytics versus PA contributor being more towards the manual use cases. That's really exactly what they were created for, because we didn't want to give folks access to everything just because they need to do that one thing. So they really are corner case roles created for specific functions. And that's pretty much it. I mean, does anyone else have anything to add to that? Yeah, that's exactly what they were created for. That only, so that they weren't able to do a whole bunch of other stuff. So I hope that helps.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so real quickly, I want to talk about some new things that are out, and we've had some academy sessions on both of these two things that we're going to talk about. But Now Experience roles. So if you're using Now Experience, or if you're going to be soon, there are definitely roles that that a user needs to have. So there are several roles associated with dashboard builder, canvas builder, dashboard admin, UI dashboard builder. And then there's two UI builder admin roles. So UI builder admin and SNUI builder.dashboard. Okay. So the share, edit, and create buttons refer to what the user can see in runtime view of the dashboard, not in the dashboard builder itself. In the dashboard builder, you grant permissions when you share. So what that means is that if you're actually viewing what has been created, then there's a share on the particular dashboard that you could share it with someone else, and not necessarily in the dashboard builder itself. But and inside the dashboard builder itself, you grant permissions when you share. So when you share something with a user and they need a particular permission in order to see that whole process is granted during that share process. And there's a doc here that talks about that as well. This diagram here is, again, something that's out on the docs on that same link on the previous page, but this gives you a really good idea of what a user can do. So just for an example, so if we take the top one, the admin permissions, right? So all of those are yes. That means that they can access granted via sharing. They can see dashboards at runtime. They can see the dashboard builder. They can share. They can edit. They can create. But maybe the UI dashboard builder permissions doesn't give all of the same thing, obviously, as an admin. So here it shows you what they can do. So can they see the dashboard at runtime? Yes. Can they edit it at runtime? Yes, they can. Can they see the dashboard builder? No, they cannot. But can they edit in the dashboard builder? Yes, they can if they're given edit, right? So this is just a really quick diagram that tells you what they can and they can't do, what they can and they can't see as it relates to the Now Experience roles or whatnot. So, pay attention to this. Again, this is in the docs. And it can be a really quick help to you, so you'll know exactly what particular role someone is going to need as it relates to Now Experience. And then the other thing, and this actually was the last Academy session we had last year that talked about user experience, and the particular roles that are needed for user experience. So the Portal Analytics admin and the Portal Analytics viewer roles are installed when the Service Portal Analytics plugin is installed. So when you install that, those roles get installed into your instance as well. And here are all of the different roles that are a part of user experience. And again, with a description of what would give that particular user if they needed that. And then also if there's any other roles that are contained inside that particular role, it tells you that as well. So again, this is in the docs. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you have not. But again, another great go-to to sort of help you when you're deciding exactly what you want to let a user do inside of the user experience. And for anyone that's not familiar with user experience is the replacement for Service Portal. So become familiar with it, start using user experience. Like I said, it replaces the Service Portal. So again, if you don't know what to give somebody, use this here and it can help you decide what exactly you need to give them. So with that, so the useful links here, these are all of the docs that I use in order to create this session. These links are on the different slides that we went through, but here is all of them collectively. So, and again, this is directly in the presentation, so you'll have that. And with that, questions. Do we have any more questions come in? So the question, user experience is referencing to the Now Experience? No. So user experience is the replacement for Service Portal. Now Experience is what, the future of PA is being rendered in rather than the dashboard builder.
The user experience analytics it's user experience analytics for Service Portal. Doesn't replace Service Portal, but it replaces all the old metrics we had for Service Portal. So there's some old content packs. The user experience analytics are just for mobile and Service Portal.
Okay. And then, like I said, now Experience is the future of creation of PA for dashboards or whatnot. So there is a difference there. Okay, there you go. So I thought Employee Center was replacing service portal. So maybe I got confused there.
There's different things out there. So for all of it, make sure you want to talk to your solution consultant about where you want to go. But the employee experience, is a newer version for that. But service portal is a whole technology of stack of things. So make sure you're talking to your solution consultant about what makes sense for the applications that you have on the best path forward. Nothing's always there's some things are a shared replacement, but there's a lot of things that it's pretty nuanced as to what you could do and where you want to be and what you want to pick up.
Yep, thanks.
I want to make one more plug in here since we have a moment. So Thomas showed a lot of great content that came straight out of the documentation, which is great. If you've been around for a long time and maybe the documentation wasn't as always useful as it could have been, we made a lot of efforts in the last few years to make it much better. And you can help with that when you are looking at the documentation. If something is not right, if something is not helpful, if it needs more, it doesn't answer your question, but you think it should be, there's a little thumbs up, thumbs down, I believe, on the top of every doc page in our documentation. Click on that. It doesn't just go nowhere. We absolutely look at that. It's going to prompt you for some more information. Why don't you like it, particularly when it's not helpful? This isn't helpful because the image is out of date. That's not what I see on my screen. Whatever it is, it doesn't answer my question. Particularly when we look at these roles and these questions. If you have a role that wasn't on there, or you're asking about a permission that's not described here, click on the thumbs down, say it's missing information, and put in what you want. You can put your email address if you'd like. If you don't want that, that's okay as well. And that creates a documentation task for us that we respond to every single one of those. So it's important to make it helpful for you and to get your answer and to make it better for everybody else, that use that feedback. Look at the documentation when you have a question. And if it's not helpful, tell us it's not helpful so we can make it helpful. Nobody will complain if you click on it is helpful. That's always nice too. It's good to tell all of our technical writers things are good. But when it's bad, let us know so we can make it better for you.
Thank you, Adam. Tara's answering those other questions. All right, here we go. Let's see. If I currently have report admin and PA admin on the service portal, will I be able to build reports and dashboards in the Now experience, or what role would I need? Let's go back here. So I think, Dario, depending on whether or not your organization has added roles, if other roles inherent, for example, I don't know if your PA admin inherits one of the roles needed for Now experience. You would want to get with your sysadmin to see if someone has made that decision or whatnot, but you would definitely want to make sure that you have any one of the roles that you can see here for at least the ability to, use the dashboard builder and, the two UI builder admin roles as well. And Adam or Tara, Dan, I don't know if, when, and maybe one of you do, if when Now experience rolled out, did it do any inheriting into any of the PA roles? Do you know?
No, it's pretty separate. And where it comes down to it. And the thing to watch out for in Now Experience is that Now Experience has two views to view analytics. One of the great things that Now Experience brings to us is that we don't have forms. Today we have lists and forms, and then separate we have dashboards and reports. In Now Experience, we're able to bring everything together. So on your workspace, and that I'm building with UIB, I can add in my reports just like anything else. Everything's a widget, and I can have a report, I can have a list, I can have PA all sitting right next to each other. To edit your workspace, I believe you need admin. Those are not meant to be hyper personalized. So it's an admin, it's something I'm building, it's part of the app. So that still needs admin. On the other side, you need UI dashboard builder to be able to use dashboard builder and build in dashboards the way that most of us think of dashboards, separate than the workspace, and maintain those and switch those. So in Now Experience in the two sides, you either need UI dashboard builder, which I don't think is included by default. We made a separation. It might have been inherited by dashboard admin, but my guess is it's separate because as we're rolling it out, you might have different people doing different things. And it's, I'm not overly in favor of inheriting everything because I might give you a little too much, but you want UI dashboard builder to be able to use dashboard builder in Now Experience to build your dashboards if you need them. And on the Now Experience side in a workspace, then you're going to be in the admin area. You're actually building it in subprods, moving it forward. More as part of it's part of your app.
Thanks, Adam. Stephen, the itty bitty chart of do things X need role Y should be published more widely. Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm guessing you're talking about this, right? So yeah, it is in the docs. But I think it's a really great tool. And you know, I'll do my best to make sure that I get it out there everywhere that I can.
And go click on it. Click on that. Not for you, Thomas.
Oh.
If you, Stephen, if you like it, click on it. Put a feedback in that this is really useful. I'm guessing you want to see it in other areas as well, not just here. Put in that feedback because the feedback we get helps us decide what else should we invest in, what else should we do. As right now, we're looking to update some other sections of the documentation. We spent a lot of time on performance analytics and reporting, and I do hope that it's more useful for you. This is relatively new, I think, this roles chart. But if you like something in there, tell us. And so we can use that as backing to get everybody else, to get other areas of the documentation to do the same thing.
I was wondering when we were going to hear from you, Stephen.
It's been a while.
So yeah, thank you for that.
And Tara, while you're on, I think were you talking or chatting with Maggie? So I'm guessing her response here is something.
I was. Oh, I didn't see that yet.
She's basically saying she went into her PDI, impersonated, and wasn't able to share reports. So she didn't.
Okay, so I think you guys did something on your instance because Dan and I actually were offline testing this ourselves while we were talking to you just to make sure we weren't giving you the correct information, and we were able to. So I'm wondering if someone at your site did it intentionally.
This was on a PDI. So it's just
and that's also sharing versus modifying too. But that's
yeah, but you're able to share my report, right, Dan?
that I did not try yet. But...
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I think for some of this, we need to go take a look at some of the basic things you guys are asking about to make sure. I'll tell you, the challenge we have is that for the four of us, most of us are report admins on whatever instance we're on.
This is true.
So we don't see everything. So we'll need to go back and take a look at some of this stuff and make sure we have what's going on there. I do know that report security has evolved over time. So if you have a PDI should be fine, but if you have an older instance, there might be some settings that you need to change. We're generally hesitant to change a lot of stuff on upgrades if we don't have to. So it is possible that on an older, not on an older instance, if your instance came from an older instance, if you started in Eureka or you started in Fuji a long time ago, security has evolved over that time. So there may be some settings we need to lock down. But that we'll take a look at it and see what we can find out, and then add a little bit more about this. Maybe we'll add a blog specifically about kind of the minimum, how to secure a report, right? How to secure a small report so other people can't edit it or can't share it. And I'm going to put the quick plug in here too. The question came in about best practices for PA and other things. We cover the data collector and a lot of best practices in previous Academy sessions. So where you found this one, there'll be a link to all the previous one. Thomas has done an awesome job of categorizing, cataloging, describing everything we've talked about in the last 2-3 years. So take a look at that. And I know that there's at least 2 data collection ones, because I was looking at one yesterday on how to set the frequency and what does that mean, and lots of great stuff in there. And we talk about it for quite some time.
Okay. Thanks, Adam and Tara and Dan and everyone that joined today. So again, this will be out on the community. This recording will be out on the community later on today. And of course, it will be out in YouTube as well. Let's see if we can get Pierre's real quick.
I think you can do that with this scorecard, right? If you go to the actual, oh, Adam's got it. Never mind.
Yep.
You can just talk, Adam.
The total, well, the about the analytics hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to do a lifetime score without building that. There is no cumulative score out of box. And the answer is we always have a hard time. The example we get asked about is like how many incidents have I had in total, and I have a hard time figuring out what a KPI is about that, because it's something you can't change, and so it's not very KPI. You can certainly do it if you create an indicator that just looks at all the data all the time, or possibly creating an aggregate that goes back 50 years. I'm assuming everybody on this call will be retired in 50 years. So by the time it's not the total, it won't matter. But there's not I'm not aware of a way that you would be able to get the total duration or again, like all incidents ever submitted if I have it from a daily indicator of incidents submitted today.
Okay, great. Thanks, Adam. So we're a couple minutes over. So thank you again for everyone that joined. This will be out there soon, and we'll see everyone in 2 weeks. We'll get that topic out here as well here shortly. So thank you again for joining, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.